So, chapter one wraps up with Sorrels' model of intercultural praxis, is what she calls it. And praxis is really what we'd call practice. It's really a fancy word for practice. And practice is, in the intercultural sense, is how we go about doing things and how we do things in terms of our action, in terms of the actions that we take. And often in academia, sometimes people will be like, "Oh, I'm theoretical, right? And I come up with theories for human behavior." And then someone else will be like, "Oh, I do praxis, right? Or I'm a practitioner. So I'm interested in actually taking action." And so there's kind of this divide between those who are theoretical, like the ideas about things, and then those who actually quote unquote do it. And praxis is trying to kind of bridge those together. It's not just action, but it's also reflection. It's meaningful action, right? And how can we take the best action, how can we think about what is the best action and then actually do it, right? And so the goal of this book is social justice, right? So what steps can we take to make the world a more just, equitable place, right? And the goal of this model is to raise our awareness, increase our critical analysis, so like our critical thinking about power and privilege, and to develop our socially responsible action. Yeah. So what steps can we take to actually put this into practice, right? In terms of our life, in terms of the choices we make, and what we consume or don't consume, the relationships we enter into, etc. So there are 6 ports of entry: inquiry, framing, position, dialogue, reflection, action. Talk more about each one. And this is all for the purpose of social justice. So making the world more just and equitable. So this is Sorrels' model, and I guess it's kind of cool because it is a circle, so you could technically enter in sort of any point, depending on, maybe you noticed an action, so action is just like it sounds, right? So something occurs, some steps were taken by a person or individual or culture. And then you can inquire about it, like why did they take that action? What was at work in that action, right? And you can think about all the questions that are tied to inquiry, right? So the questioning of what is meaningful here and why is it meaningful. So inquiry is related to questioning and asking questions and probing a given instance or cultural event, right? Framing is talking about, how do you talk about what you're going to talk about, right? So what selection of a given topic, right, are you talking about? Or how is the media only, framing a certain debate, right? When it talks about, Democrats and Republicans, right? Is there some sort of middle ground that the debate is missing, right? And that's a question of framing, right? Like what do the questions take into account? What do they not take into account, right? Do I have the proper frame to enter into dialogue or action? And then positioning, how do I stand in relationship to the topic? How do others stand in relationship to the topic? How do I stand historically in relationship to the topic, right? How does race, class, and gender and the history of those constructs play into this moment or instance, right? And then dialogue, right? Thinking about how it's a give and take and how we can learn from each other and we can get at some sort of shared meaning, right? And listen. Dialogue is also about listening. And sometimes I forget that too, but so being open, I think, to be changed by dialogue and by cultural experience and by others of different perspectives. Yeah, very easier said than done. So we have inquiry, framing, positioning, dialogue, and then reflection, right? So reflecting on what does that mean, right? What are the possible options, right? how can I best proceed? What action should I take, right? And then how can I carry that meaningfully into some sort of action, right? What steps should I take to make the world a better place, right? Uh, and so, yeah, it's a circle of intercultural praxis. And again, the point is to put action and reflection about that action together, really. So action and the theory about why we're acting together. So I would call this kind of like thoughtful action, intercultural thoughtful action, right? And how we can take thoughtful action. And then the chapter ends on, of course, social justice, which is the goal of the book and also the subtitle of the book. And this is a quote from Adams, Bell, and Griffin. The goal of social justice is full and equal participation of all groups in a society that is mutually shaped to their needs. Yes. So, how can we make the world more participatory for everybody? Right? What groups are overrepresented in, say our prison system, right? What groups are overrepresented in our democratic, system, right? And why is that, right? And how can we make sure that all groups are, have opportunity for education and participation in democracy? And that is the goal of this book. And so, yeah, this intercultural praxis model, Sorrels will come back to in later chapters. And it is a cool model because you can definitely enter into it at different points, right? It's not quite linear. It's a sphere. It's a circle. And so again, this is the goal of the book: social justice and taking action to bring about a more charitable, beneficial world for all of us. Okay, that was chapter 1. Thank you so much. Let me know your questions. All right, thanks for listening. Bye.